Yeah, so this is Uncover art exhibition, which sort of came up with the idea of wanting to do a show again, I guess about 6 months ago. I've been painting for about 5 years now, mostly in Vancouver, is where I had my first show. And I decided about, I guess 6 months ago that I was going to stay and live in Victoria. I've been here almost 2 years. And I moved here from Vancouver, and this is definitely my home now. And I thought it was time that I had an art show and sort of showed Victoria what I'm all about. And so this show is very personal to me, hence the name Uncover, sort of bearing my soul in a few different ways. One, showing sort of the breadth of the work that I like to do, as well as I did do a specific series called the Recovery Series. And it is dedicated to people who are still in their addiction and people who've died from addiction. I myself am a recovering addict in recovery, and moving to Victoria had a lot to do with that. I went to treatment up Island in Cobble Hill, and the recovery community here is amazing, and it's been a huge support to me. So that is really a lot about the series. As well, I also came up with an idea for a new concept, and that's actually the painting that we're standing behind here. And the idea is, it's called Fabstract, and the idea behind it is taking a photograph that somebody loves and they love to look at and turning it into an abstract painting. My passion is to do bespoke art, which means custom. And I'm also a designer, and so going into people's homes when they have a space that they want a painting for, talking with them, understanding the space, getting to know them, and creating something personal for them and for that space, that is really what I love to do. I'm not the kind of artist that just wants to paint my ideas and put them out there and hope that people buy them. I really do love the custom work. And so this idea came about because we all have those photos that we love and bring us good memories, right? Of, like, you know, children or couples on a vacation, or, you know, just a photograph that you took when you were traveling that every time you look at it, you feel great. And likely it sits in a frame or a photo album. God forbid it's blown up into a giant poster on foam core and sits above the sofa in your den, which as a designer, I abhor that idea. That's actually where this came about. I saw one and I was like, that's not good design. But what if it could be turned into an abstract painting? So that when other people come to your home and see it, they see a beautiful painting. When you look at it every day, you get those memories back of and all those good feelings. And so a couple who are very good friends of mine, I approached them and asked them if I could use them as a test subject, and they were very happy to oblige. And so they gave me a photograph of when they got married 10 years ago. Their names are Morgan and Gordon, and it was exactly what I wanted. It was a really personal photograph for them. And so I took it, and then the next part of the process after picking the photo is to do an interview with them. And so I sit down and I talk with them and find out, like, where was it taken? What are sort of the emotions that come up when you look at this? You know, why is it such a favorite photo? And very importantly, what are your favorite colors, right? Like, what are the things that you like to look at every day? And they took me on a tour of their house and they showed me lamps and pillows and clothing, and they're like, we like that color and that color and that color. And you know, they really like muted tones and earthy colors. As well, they just moved to a home on Salt Spring Island, which I'm helping them style. And so I get all this information from that interview, and then I get to create a painting that for me is very personal, because I sort of get to take all that information and create something, which as an artist that's all I really ever want to do, is use my hands to create something beautiful. And you know, and they get to have a painting that is really, you know, really personal to them. So this is, you know, what it is. That's the photo that it was that they gave me. And you know, Gordon on the left is he's a bulldog, and Morgan on the right is a real gentle giant. And you know, I think we did the unveiling last night at the show opening, and they had never seen it before. And we actually had like a whole sheet over the painting, and so I took everybody through this idea, and then we took the sheet off, and they were standing there, and of course I was nervous because I was looking at their reaction, and they love it, and and they're thrilled, and for me that's such an honor to surprise and delight someone like that, and I'm really happy with it. I think the test went well, and one of the things that I really do like about this idea is, as an artist living in Victoria, I'm somewhat limited to the market that I get to sell to, especially doing bespoke stuff, finding the right homes to go into and enough people. And this idea sort of transcends geography, because someone in Vancouver or Toronto or Los Angeles or Sao Paulo can email me a photo, we can have a FaceTime interview, I can learn everything I need to know about them. They can take me through a tour of their house or show me where they want to hang the painting. I can create it and ship it, and and it can be that simple. And so I'm excited about this idea. Well, hopefully it'll take off. And yeah, so this is part of the Uncover show, is sort of showing people like these are the ideas and these are the things that I can do to create beautiful art for people. That's very personal. And so. So that's Fabstract, and then as I mentioned, I'm a recovering addict, and I went to rehab for the first time about 5 years ago, and one of the questions that they asked was, if you could wake up every day and do something, what would you do? And I said I would paint and be an artist. And they said, have you painted anything before? And I said, yes, one painting once. And actually this is it here. And it's actually, so that's Black Stripes #1. And I actually painted it for my father for a birthday present one year. And I don't know what evoked that answer when I was there, but that's what I decided. And so I quit my job as an advertising and marketing executive, because that's what I did for 10 years, and decided to become an artist. And I guess about 6 months later, I had my first show in Vancouver. And it was very sort of similar like this. I throw my own shows. I haven't ever really been associated with a gallery. I have been with retail spaces. And for me, that's a great venue. Because that's where designers go, as well as people who have a little bit of money and are looking to put beautiful things in their homes. So that complement has worked out pretty well, and so I don't know. That's sort of where it all started, and you can see the similar style of just the idea of using the texture. And using my hands and creating, a wall sculpture. People ask me, like, you're a painter, and I'm like, yes, I'm a painter, but it really is, for me, it is sculpting. And using plaster and colors and mixing it with different polymers and thicknesses and things like that, and just creating really textural pieces that are 90% of the time really shiny. I love glazing. I just think, especially when using color, it just brings out so much more of the character. And because so many of the paintings have so many layers of paint, the glaze really brings that out. And so I guess about 5 years or so now I've been painting, and it is my passion. Just and this little bit about the bespoke art, as I was saying before, that is truly what I love to do. And I like having the client's participation, which you say that to most artists and they definitely don't like that. But I do, because again, it's something personal that I'm creating for somebody else. I want their input. I had a client one time, and it was about 2/3 way through, and it was one of the striped paintings. Actually, yeah, kind of similar to this one. It was the textured, and it was the stripes, and it was, she worked in the wine business, and so it was all different shades of wine. And so deep, rich burgundies and reds, and God, there was probably about 30 or 40 different shades in it. And she came in and looked at it, and she pointed to one stripe, and she was like, I hate to do this, and I feel horrible, but I just don't like that one. She's like, but I don't want, to tell you what to do. And so I excused myself from the room, and I went into the back of my studio, and I came back out after mixing a little bit of paint, and I slapped it on. And I'm like, more like that? And she's like, yeah. And she's like, is that okay? I'm like, of course. I'm an artist, right? It's just paint. That's not the most important part, right? The most important part for me is she gets something that she looks at and she doesn't see anything wrong with it, and that she just loves it. And that's what I want to create. The other big part of this Uncover show for me, as I mentioned, is the recovery series. I've had people in my life die from addiction. And, so for me, that was, it was a really personal journey, to go into. I don't name my paintings. The biggest influence as far as artists, abstract artists in my life is definitely Mark Rothko. He's by far my favorite. And, his philosophy was that it's not the artist's journey, it's not the artist's job to take the viewer on the journey. And so, if I named this Gray Forest, then you wouldn't see, that sort of gives you a head start to go on my journey. And that's not my job, right? My job as an artist is just to evoke emotion. And that's all I want to do. Love it, hate it, feel, different things. I don't want to start that for you. So the paintings are always, Gray Stripes number 5, Magenta Flow. But this series was a little bit different, and I'll show you. It's, it was definitely extremely personal for me. There's 3 of the paintings that are, the 3 of the paintings that are very colorful are all dedicated to people that I know, or have been, somehow in my life. And I just felt that it was important for me to honor them. Because it's tough. I can speak very personally about this. It's tough being an addict. And, I've been very fortunate. I've been able to get treatment. I've been able to learn about addiction and live a wonderful life in recovery in Victoria, which has an amazing recovery community. A lot of it has to do with the fact that the treatment centers that I went to is just up in Cobble Hill. It's called Cedars, and it's a magical place. And so many people that go there, some come from Victoria, but some come from all over Canada. And then they come, and it's suggested that they live in Victoria. And so when you're from Winnipeg or Edmonton or Prince Rupert and you see Victoria, why would you want to live anywhere else? It's the most beautiful place. And so it's an amazing recovery community here. And, so for me to do something really personal was a really nice journey. It was hard. It was really hard. Because again, it was something new for me. That's really, the essence of the show. There are some paintings in here that I did 4 or 5 years ago, but the new ones, it was new techniques, and it was new journeys, and it was new, coming up with new colors, and ways to paint. And it really is, for me as an artist, and for people looking, at my work that have seen my journey, both the dark journey and, my journey in recovery, the feedback is, just seeing that progression. And as an artist, that's what we love to do. I don't want to paint the same paintings year after year after year. And so for me, it's been great to get the feedback of other people seeing, that progression. And these are the first paintings that I've ever named. This one's named Ty, Paula and Ty. He was a friend of mine that I'd met in rehab, and he was gay, and very flamboyant, and had just the most beautiful sense of humor. And he died of an overdose, tragically, after being clean for quite a while. And unfortunately, that is the reality that I live in. It's tough, and he was. I remember actually, we did gym in rehab, and every day he would want to play "Call Me Maybe" by Carly Rae Jepsen, and I wanted to play Bon Jovi. And he would ask, and I'd be like, "Oh, we listened to it yesterday." He'd be like, "Okay, just at the beginning." And every time we play that song, every time I hear that song now, it brings tears to my eyes. Just remembering, right? And the tragedy that young people have to die because of addiction. It's tragic. All these three men were young. And yeah, this was just it was just a way for me to honor them. And I think that's why they're so colorful. When I thought about it, I didn't want to do a series of paintings on addiction that were dark. Because there's a lot of darkness. And so to bring out the light, to bring out the joy and the happiness that can be found in recovery. And I think that's why it's not called the addiction series, why it's called the recovery series. Tomorrow night we're doing a special dedication, and throwing a sober DJ dance party, because the space is so amazing. As soon as I saw it, I was like, this would be great. And I'm so thrilled that I get to be a part of that, right? And I get to give that gift to all of my friends in recovery to come and have a really, really good time with each other. Because, for us, the idea of going, sometimes going out to bars, going dancing, going where there's drug culture and drug scenes and stuff like that, it's just something that we don't get to do anymore. And we're lucky that we have each other, still to be able to have a lot of fun. So this series has been definitely very special for me to create. And and then I guess the other thing that I guess sort of the other two styles that I do is the stripes. Can't help it, I love stripes. I always have. I like circles too, but there's something about stripes. As an artist creating things, more stripes, more colors, more texture, like you just get a lot more, to work with. And also as a designer, I love right angles. I'm not a big fan of corners, curves, sometimes curves. And that's one of the advantages, for me is that I am a designer. And whether it's a bespoke piece that I'm doing for a home, it's just an extension of my designing. And a lot of the clients that I have are people that I start designing for, and they need a painting, and I get to know them, I get to know the space, and I might have one that exists, or I might be able to create one for them. I did a diptych, so two paintings that were 3 feet by 6 feet beside each other, so it ended up being this huge 6-foot square in the flow style, which is this one. But they were done. One was done with blue, and one was done with green. Instead of the magenta, as is in this one. And it was fantastic, right? Because I got to help style the space and create the painting. Although sometimes it's difficult, because as the designer, I might think that a piece of art will look good, and as the artist, I'm hoping that it will. And it's definitely happened a couple times where I've had to fire myself as the artist, because I put the painting up, I'm like, it doesn't work. And then, but I have to be honest, right? And for me, that's the most important thing. I don't ever want anyone to live in an environment that they're not comfortable in, that they're not going to get that peace and that harmony and that balance. And you know, for me, when I started designing, which came after starting to paint actually, I had a partner that we were together for 4.5 years, and he's a brilliant designer. And I learned a ton from him, and I'm eternally grateful every single day that he took me down that journey to learn so much. You know, and then I realized that I'm good at this, and I love doing it. And you know, and especially in coming into recovery, you know, sometimes that's the biggest challenge. You know, you had a life before. What am I going to do now? And I'm so fortunate that I know what my passion is. I know what I want to do with my life every single day. I know what brings me joy. And I know I have to do those things. Because if I don't, I can easily go backwards. And so yeah, and that's what it is. You know, in my artist statement and in my website and things like that, my artist statement is pretty simple. I like to make spaces more beautiful. And it doesn't matter what the space is. It can be a bathroom, it can be a boardroom, it can be an entire house. But I have the talent of going into a space and recognizing when it's off balance or when things don't look good together. And that doesn't mean that they're color coordinated and things like that. Yeah, and I mean, placing furniture properly, I mean, all of those things. I definitely take, you know, some feng shui ideas, and I do in my art as well. You know, that is, you know, art needs to be balanced. So yeah, I do. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about it, and you know, I've sold a few paintings, so you know, apparently I'm not so bad at it, and yeah, and I just want to keep doing it. I just yeah, I love making spaces more beautiful. Period. And Evan, let me show you my favorite new painting. It's also part of the recovery series, but this one is actually dedicated to the addicts who still suffer. So it's when I did create it, I had someone in mind, Tim, who is an amazing, beautiful, talented man who still suffers from addiction. And seeing his life, you know, really affected me and reminded me why, for me, it's so important that I'm in recovery. And just the darkness, like we talked about before, that life brings. And so, you know, this one is dedicated for him, and for all of the addicts that are still out there. And that's why this one has no color. And, you know, for me, it was also very personal because, I don't know, I see a little bit of Rothko in it. I don't know if anybody else will. But as I started creating it and I started sort of seeing that and realizing how personal it was for me, both, you know, because of him and because of, you know, the Rothko influence for me, yeah, it's a very personal painting. And it was, you know, a new technique for me. This doesn't look like any other painting that I've done before. And so that was, you know, both, you know, very exciting and a little bit scary. You know, it always is when you put something new out there. But you know, last night at the opening, it got very good reception, and so it's still my favorite new painting. So that's really good. And yeah, and again, just to honor those who are still out there and struggling, and you know, and need help, but they're not quite ready yet. So yeah, and again, that's what I get to do, right? With whatever artistic talent that I've been given, is I get to create things and evoke that emotion like we talked about at the beginning. That's my job, and I'm just really, really lucky that I get to do it. So thank you very much for the interview. Jason. Santina, nice to meet you. John, nice to meet you. What a beautiful name that is. Yeah. Yeah. You get that all the time, though.
It's different, right?
Okay, great. Are you guys from here? Yeah. Oh, okay, great. Yeah, this is my daughter Katie, Santina, and John. Nice to meet you. Katie's over here for the weekend for Daddy's art show.
Good.
Yeah, she does make me work from home.
So is this going to be a permanent space for you?
No,
permanent
space. No, it's the Market Squares. It's like an exhibition space. So they have art shows. They do dance recitals. They do a whole bunch of different things.
So you can just take a space.
So you rent it. That's sort of what I want to do. Just rent a space for the week.
Mine recently, I looked through the window and I saw that somebody had a bunch of stuff like chairs and stuff.
Yeah.
First of all, I thought it was a photo shoot, and then I was wondering if somebody was just using it in storage. So
Right.
when we came back in, so
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. When she turned the lights on, I was just like, yeah. I'll do it. Yeah. Because I've been so this is my first show about 5 years ago when I started doing others. After leaving the job, advertising marketing for 10 years. Lucratively not the best decision of my life. However, spiritually